we've made it to part 10 of Adults. This exciting, increasingly dramatic story. The main players are the lovely Hazel, a respectable woman, late 20s. Neil, the kind of guy of about 35, maybe even late 30s, and he's got a tendency to wear a parker with deep pockets. We've got Carrie, who's a friend of Hazel, and we have Neil's grandmother. She's an old woman into her 80s, perhaps getting a bit dotted, maybe not, maybe she's got her full faculties. And we have a man who's been mentioned, Mark, who's the ex-boyfriend of Hazel, but he's not made an actual appearance in the narrative. And I think I need to get some other type of dynamic soon, so I'm going to introduce a man called Pete, who's a friend of Hazel, and pretty soon Pete will come in to the scenario. So at the moment we are getting a reveal that Neil has a special bunker, basement, miniature dungeon, cubbyhole, special place where he has weird stuff and experiences. Is underneath the big house, down some creaky wooden stairs. He's down there just now, and there's flickering candles, about half a dozen full candles, and maybe about 8 to 10 little tea lights, and they're on this type of altar that he's created, and he's now adding to it. He's put a picture on the wall as part of the altar with the candles all in front of it. And this picture is his drawing, the charcoal drawing which he created at the art class. A very crude, strong, thick lined outline of a woman with big breasts lying back. Supposed to be the model, but it looks a bit exaggerated, and he's managed to get a picture of some sort, a photograph of Hazel, and it's been crudely cut out, almost like it's been cut out with a knife or a pair of scissors, and he's stuck this photograph on to replace the face he's drawn. So we've got a kind of a caricature of Hazel lying back, her face as a photograph, and a kind of crude body that he's drawn. And this is the centrepiece of his altar, and the candles are all flickering away underneath that, and in his cubbyhole den dungeon, and he has other features either side of the altar. There's bottles of pills and things, and he has bits of her underwear and her pants pinned to the backboard of the altar display. And this is all represents the essence of Hazel and his adulation of her. So he's created what amounts to as a shrine to her down in the basement. The dark, dingy, candle flickering basement of his grandmother's house. This is where he hangs out. The next day, Hazel is sitting in her posh living room, and she's doing some illustrations. Drawings, very colourful, in prime colours, that look like children's drawings. Very bright. And she's got her little brush out, and she's forming the bright, intense drawings. And she's listening to a tune on her little cassette player. Little kind of stereo ghetto blaster type of thing. Silver little twin speaker thing, and it's playing a Sophie Ellis Bextor tune. And the tune's going, go, 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 you drive me up the wall. It's a very appropriate type of song for her mood. Bright and breezy. With Sophie Ellis Bextor singing that gritty and posh way, with Sophie's voice is actually very posh, but also gritty and cool at the same time. Sophia bounces along. You drive me crazy, you're up the wall. You just think you know it all. Go, go, go. Go, 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 go. Breep, breep. Breep, breep. The phone goes. Hazel just ignores it. It flips to answer machine service. Hi, this is Hazel. I'm not here at the moment. Please leave a message after the tone. Sophie Ellis Bextor carries on. Go, 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 drive me crazy up the bow. You know it all. Go. Coming out of the little ghetto blaster. Say I'm not here. Beep. There's 10 messages indicated on the answer phone. 10's displayed in red. In comes the voice of Neil. Hayes, please, why won't you pick up the phone? Neil's sitting just outside her place in his Volvo estate. And he's looking at her through the window during the daytime and continually phoning her. And he's registered 10 messages so far. Neil's getting frustrated. You're going to have to call. You're going to have to answer sometime, because I'm going to keep calling. Why don't you answer? I'll keep calling until you answer. Sophie Alex Baxter carries on. You're not the man you thought. La 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 la. Go, 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 go. Driving me up the wall. 19 calls have now registered on Hazel's machine. 19 messages. She hasn't answered. And there's 19 messages being recorded. Hazel tries not to be distracted and carries on with her painting. But she just stands up and she is pacing around, agitated at this onslaught of calls to her answer phone. And then there's a tit tit tit, tit tit tit, sharp knocking on her front door. The knocker. Tit tit tit. Fair amount of impatience coming from the style of chap. It's the type of chap that is commanding an answer. Adults. Part 11. Thank you for your support on this journey. So what's happening? Hazel has been getting pestering calls. She's clocked up 19 on her landline. Remember, the story is set in 2002, so people hadn't completely converted to mobile communication. They used a bit of both, and there wasn't any smartphones. People had wee phones that they could text and call, but they didn't have screens on them. YouTube hadn't been invented yet either, and people didn't really Google things routinely. This was just becoming established, the internet as a general tool. So landlines were the communication tool of choice in those days, and if you were at home. So Hazel's been getting constant calls from Neil, who's sitting outside, not that far away, in his Volvo estate, getting increasingly agitated that she's not answering the phone, and he's clocked up 19 messages that are registered. And Hazel has been brazening it out, and he's just as persistent. Neil is trying to wear her down with his persistence, and clearly Neil doesn't know how to take a hint. So there's a rat-tat-tat on the door, Hazel tentatively and warily steps towards her front door, opens the door over. What does she see? Standing on the step, there's a man standing on the step. The young man standing on the step says, "Miss Daisy?" "Yes." "I have some flowers for you." And the delivery guy hands over a big bunch of exquisite flowers. "Thank you," she says, with a weary, gentle smile, takes the flowers. Neil is watching this. He's sitting on the other side of the street, behind the steering wheel of his Volkswagen estate, with a look on his face which is verging on anger. He hears a door open. He looks over. It's the door next to Hazel, a white door of a similar type, but painted white, and emerging from that door is a black African woman who's about 5'2", maybe 5'4" at a stretch, tall, and she's wearing a kind of fur-lined coat. Carrie is leaving her house. Carrie walks along the street with a quick stride. She's walking along with purpose, on her own. She hasn't noticed Neil in the car, sitting there. Neil quickly jumps out of his Volkswagen and sets up into a slight jog in order to catch up with Carrie. He's now just a short distance behind her as he's crossing the street towards the pavement where she's walking. He doesn't come any closer. He keeps about 20 yards behind her. So as she's clinking and clunking along with her heels off of the stones, she goes down a side alleyway, and she's being pursued or tailed by Neil, who's matching her speed. And he's having to make big strides to keep up with her. Carrie's pacing along quite the thing, totally oblivious to this man, Neil, coming along behind her. There's a few pigeons flying around and becoming near to Carrie, sweeping by here and there, lifting off of the surface of the pavement. And then there's a huge bunch of pigeons all rise up, maybe about 50 of them all rise up off the ground in unison. And Carrie stops as all the pigeons flap up in front of her, and she stops dead and turns round, eyes wide, and she sees him right behind her. She takes in a sharp breath and a slight gulp. Neil and Carrie are now sitting together face to face in a cafe. Broad daylight, big windows, and Neil is talking with her casually. I really fancy her, he says to Carrie, acting decent and nice. But I think I might have scared her off, eh? Maybe I've scared her off, he says to Carrie. He strokes his forehead. I'm crap at all this, says Neil, looking for empathy or sympathy. Carrie doesn't say anything. She just carries on with her coffee and cake and licks her fingers. She's not getting committed to anything. She just lets them talk. Neil says to Carrie, who appears to be taking him on, I just don't know, says Neil, what to do, how to make the right moves. You just got to take things slowly, says Carrie. That's her advice. Carrie informs Neil she's just come out of a really crappy relationship. Really? Neil says, surprised, as if he hadn't taken this into consideration before. I didn't realise that, he says. Hi there again. We're at part 12 of Adults. Neil had been tailing Carrie, the friend of Hazel. Carrie is British, with a British accent, but her origins, her ethnic origins, are apparent on her appearance. She has dark skin and tight, dark curly hair, and quite ornate earrings. But she's also British and with a southern British accent. And she's sitting in the cafe. It's a bright day. The cafe has big windows. Neil is sitting across from her, and Carrie is giving Neil the heads up on Hazel. She speaks about and describes Hazel's boyfriend Mark, who she split up with. It was more than acrimonious. It went quite nasty when they split up, and Carrie describes Mark, the ex-boyfriend of Hazel, as a floppy-haired art dealer type, similar to the kind of Hugh Grant type of style in demeanour. Hugh what? Yes, Hugh Grant. This charming man, Mark, forced Hazel to have an abortion which she didn't want. So that's a measure of the man. If you could call him a man, what kind of man would do that to a woman? Carrie goes on, and then Mark, the charming Mark, dumped Hazel for a, as she put it, a posh tart that he'd been screwing all along anyway. So, God knows why she got involved with this guy Mark. Poor Hazel. Either Neil is genuinely concerned or he's upgraded his acting skill. He does seem genuinely livid at this type of story and treatment, or the type of treatment that's been meted out to Hazel, and the story seems to be affecting him emotionally. Being very possessive, of course, of Hazel so quickly. Clearly he's perturbed because of the treatment of what he believed to be his future wife. How did she take it? Neil asks Carrie. Carrie says, well, not very well. In fact, she lost it. Lost the plot. Stopped eating. Stopped washing. And one night, says Carrie, Hazel downs a bottle of vodka and heads around to Mark's flat, and Victoria was there with him, she thinks. Carrie says to Neil, I'll spare you the gory details, but Hazel ended up in a police cell. Mark has become very angry at this story that's been recounted about Hazel. Later on, Hazel is on her computer in her living room, and her phone goes again, her landline. Beep, 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 beep. The landline rings, and her answer phone machine, built into the phone, takes a call and records a message. Mark had time for the anger within him to build up, so he's sitting in his Volkswagen estate across the road, looking at Hazel via his laptop, and via the spy camera, he's looking at her and he's talking into his mobile, and the message has been recorded on the answer phone which Hazel is listening to. And Neil is talking with clenched teeth in a very angry way, saying he can't believe what that bastard did to you. I can't believe it. Neil is saying, that bastard. Neil is saying with his poxy gallery and his flash car, I would never treat you like that, says Neil, as he's watching her visually through his laptop, sitting in the car, talking on the phone. Hazel gets up from her seat where she'd been typing on her computer at the sound of the anger message that's being recorded. Hazel is being triggered by this. She moves towards the handset, grabs it up, and shouts down the phone, "Leave me alone, or I'll call the police!" She shouts down the phone and bangs the handset down with conviction. And then she goes over to the wall socket and pulls the lead, the connection out of the wall, disconnects her phone, or landline phone. The next thing that happens, not long after that, is the front door opens of Hazel's house. She's got her coat on, got her keys, and she jogs down the steps, down onto the pavement and in the street, gets in her Beetle car, her sky blue Beetle, and drives away in a kind of urgent mood. Neil is seeing all this. He flips his laptop together and puts it to the side and gets ready to drive away. And he starts up his Volvo estate and begins to tail Hazel. As he drives away to tail Hazel, there's a woman who's got greyish kind of hair, not fully grey. A woman in their early 50s is sitting in a car not far away from where Neil was, on the same side of the road, just a few cars down. She's been watching Hazel and Neil, it would appear. She's been watching the pair of them. This woman of a certain age, in her early 50s. This middle-aged lady drives off and starts to follow Neil. Hi there, we're at number 13 now, episode 13, part 13. Just an apology, when Neil was sitting in the car in the last episode, right at the start, not at the start of the episode, but at the start of the bit where he was phoning Hazel and watching her in his spy camera, I accidentally called him Mark right at the start. By mistake. I'm doing this right off the cuff, as you're probably aware. So I just said Mark there, but then I started to call him Neil, which is who I was talking about. It was because just before that I was talking about Mark, and I got confused. It's very easy for me to get confused. So we're going to carry on with the story now. And Hazel's walked out of her house. She probably is feeling very claustrophobic by these constant pestering calls from Neil, who's persistent. Let's face it, he's stalking her. That's what we call it these days. So I think perhaps she maybe just wants some fresh air, so she's jumped down the steps and jumped into her car and off she's headed. Of course, she's been tailed by Neil, and quite bizarrely, Neil's been tailed by a woman with greyish type of hair that you'd associate with early 50s. And Hazel has appeared at a high point, a viewpoint over the city. You can see the cathedral in the distance. It's a rural, grassy trees up on the top of a hill, which she's able to drive to and park her car and take in the air and the view. She's got her coat on. It's not a sunny day. It's dry, overcast, cloudy, no sharp shadows, and not a lot of wind. Pleasant enough. And she's standing right next to a bench, and her car itself is just right next to the bench, about 6 to 10 feet away. And she's looking over the vista. After a few moments of contemplation, she walks to the front side of the bench in her coat, which her blonde hair is hanging over the collar of her coat. She sits down on the bench with her coat on and looks out at the view of the buildings down below. She's up at the top of a hill, trying to collect her thoughts. And then her thoughts are quickly disturbed by the rattling sound of a Volvo engine when another car drives up, and she looks around in a bit of a disturbed surprise, and pacing towards her is a tall man in a parka. We know who that is. Hazel wastes no time. She darts to her car, running very delicately, like a girl with her legs and arms splayed as she darts from the bench to her car. Neil shouts, "Hayes! Hayes! Please! Shouts Neil. Wait! Hazel sensibly concentrates on shutting her car door, getting the engine started. It's now running. Neil's screaming now at the top of his voice. Why are you doing this, Jimmy? Why? Neil reaches the car, Hazel's car, and he's right up, only a few inches from her window. And he's shouting at the top of his voice, so much so his breath is steaming up the pane of glass, the car window. That's how loud he's shouting, how close he is. Just a few inches from her, apart from a sheet of glass. Neil puts his hand, his whole palm, onto the window. Why won't you talk to me? He's screaming and shouting, why won't you talk? He puts both palms on the glass. He's been trying to pull the door open, but it's locked from the inside. He's got both palms pressed right up against the window, and his nose is pressed up onto the glass, and he's screaming at the top of his voice, and his face looks like it's all distorted with rage, and the whole of the outside of the window is now steaming up as he screams and shouts. Hazel managed to keep it together and starts to drive off. I love you, he's shouting. I love you, hanging on to the car. She gets free of him and starts to build up a little bit of speed. I love you, he's shouting at her. She gets to about 10 miles per hour. Just getting away from him, and he's jogging along in his Parker, pursuing her, trying to run after the car. But she speeds away, leaving him behind, leaving Neil in the distance as she speeds off. Neil gets back to his own Volvo estate with the intention probably of pursuing Hazel. Neil looks down at his car front tyre. There's a screwdriver piercing right through the side wall. Someone has sabotaged his front tyre just when he thought he was going to pursue Hazel. His car has been nobbled. As Hazel has made a clean break as she's driving along through the trees, she passes by a car with a woman driver with grey hair. Someone with a concerned look on her face.